You wake before sunrise in 1250 BC, and the Nile air tastes faintly of damp earth and river reeds. Ancient Egypt is already moving, because if the river's rhythm is missed today, the whole year feels it. The darkness is not silent. In the distance, you hear waterfowl calling across the marsh, and closer, the soft scrape of sandals over packed mud. A cooking fire breathes alive in short orange pulses, and the smoke carries the scent of acacia wood and grain porridge warming in a clay pot. Above you, the sky is a deep indigo veil scattered with stars, and just at the edge of the eastern horizon, a thin line of light begins to form like a blade. This is Egypt in the time of the New Kingdom, around the reign of a powerful royal house. When temples are wealthy, scribes are indispensable, and the state's reach runs along the Nile like a spine. The land beyond the river is desert, but the strip of fertile black soil, dark, soft, and living, feeds villages, cities, and armies. The gods are present not as distant ideas, but as daily forces, in the grain that rises, in the water that returns, in the balance that must be kept. You are not here to watch from a distance. You are here to move through a single day as an ancient Egyptian might, through rooms of cool mudbrick, through sunlit courtyards, through the loud marketplaces and quiet temple corridors. But one detail changes everything. The same sun that blesses Egypt also exposes every mistake. Dawn arrives quickly. The first sunlight spills over the palms and turns the Nile into a ribbon of copper. You step outside, and the ground is cool under your feet, still holding the night's moisture. Mudbrick walls, smoothed and patched by hand, catch the light and glow a muted rose. In a nearby pen, goats shift and snort softly. A donkey brays, impatient to be loaded. Somewhere a baby cries, and a woman's voice answers in a low, steady rhythm. This village sits within a world that feels both intimate and enormous. The horizon is flat and open, yet Egypt is not an empty land. It is organized, measured, counted. The river is the road, the calendar, and the promise. Boats slide along it with quiet certainty, their sails filling as the morning breeze awakens. On the far bank the desert rises pale and still, as if it is watching. In 1250 BC, Egypt's power comes from more than monuments. It comes from administration, from grain stored in sealed bins, from lists kept by scribes, from labor organized into crews, from temple estates that own fields and workshops. You can feel that system even here, in a small place. The men discussing irrigation speak in practical terms, but their words are tied to sacred order. The river must be guided, the canals maintained, the boundaries respected. Above the mud-brick rooftops a small shrine catches the sun, simple, whitewashed, with a painted symbol that has been refreshed countless times. Below, in the shade of a doorway, a reed mat dries from yesterday's washing. Which is the true Egypt, its grand temples, or this quiet daily maintenance that keeps everything standing? As the sun climbs, the village becomes a choreography of small tasks. You pass a courtyard where grain is being ground on a stone quern. The sound is steady, scrape, press, scrape, like sandpaper on rock. A faint dust lifts into the air and settles on forearms, on hair, on the rim of a water jar. Nearby, a man repairs a fishing net with fingers that move as if they already know the next knot. The fibers are rough and slightly damp, smelling of river water and old reeds. You follow a footpath toward the fields. The earth changes under your sandals, from dry dust to softer soil, darker and cooler. Irrigation channels glitter in the sunlight. Workers lift water with simple devices, shadufs, wooden poles and counterweights that swing in patient arcs. Water splashes into basins with a sound that is oddly comforting, as if the land is drinking. A boy runs past carrying a bundle of cut stalks. A woman balances a jar on her head, her posture effortless, her steps measured. Men shoulder baskets of reeds and mud, patching a canal edge before it crumbles. Their skin shines with sweat, but they do not waste movement. In this heat, efficiency is survival. By mid-morning, you reach a larger settlement where the streets tighten and the air grows warmer between walls. The marketplace hums. You smell dried fish, fresh bread, and something sharp, perhaps onions or crushed herbs. A vendor fan flies away with a palm frond. Another stacks dates in a shallow basket. their skins glossy in the sun. Copper tools glint on a cloth laid over a low table. Pottery, red, buff, and painted, crowds the edges of stalls like a small army of jars. What would you notice first? The colors, the smells, the sound of voices bargaining? Or would you notice the scribes sitting in a patch of shade, reeds in hand, recording transactions with calm precision? Because in Egypt, memory is power, and writing turns a busy day into an account the state can hold. The heat intensifies. By noon, the sunlight is almost white, flattening shadows and making every surface feel exposed. The air shimmers over the hard, packed ground. Conversation slows. Even the animals seek shade. You step into a darker interior, cool mudbrick, a low ceiling, a doorway hung with woven reeds, and feel immediate relief. Inside, water jars stand in a row, their porous clay sweating faintly to keep the water cool. A bowl of bread and beer sits on a mat. The beer is thick and grainy, more nourishing than intoxicating, and the bread is dense, made to sustain. But you can sense tension beneath the routine. A messenger arrives from upriver, dust on his calves, breath slightly hurried. He speaks to an elder and then to an official, a man with a more careful posture, a linen garment cleaner than most. The words are not shouted, but they carry weight. A canal gate has been damaged. The water level is unpredictable. If repairs are delayed, fields downstream may dry too quickly, and upstream may flood. The Nile is generous, but it demands attention. Its timing is everything. The turning point of this day is not a battle or a royal decree. It is a practical crisis, water control. You walk back outside with the repair crew, and the sun hits you like a physical force. Tools are gathered, wooden stakes, woven mats, mud, stone. People move faster now, but still with discipline. A scribe follows at a distance, watching, recording, ensuring responsibility is assigned. Above, the sun blazes like a god who does not blink. Below, the canal water looks calm, almost indifferent. Which should you fear more? The heat you can feel? Or the slow mistake you might not notice until it is too late? You reach the canal gate. It is not a grand structure, no towering monument, no carved relief, yet it holds the day's most important power. Water moves through a narrow opening, and the edges are worn where the current has worried them. A section of the bank has slumped, the mud cracked like dried skin. The repair crew kneels, hands sinking into wet earth. The smell is strong now, rich, organic, the scent of life and decay mixed together. They pack mud into gaps, reinforce with reeds, drive stakes, and lay woven mats to stabilize the flow. The work is rhythmic. Someone calls out a measurement. Another answers. A basket of mud is passed hand to hand. You hear the slap of wet earth, the creak of wood, the quick breath of exertion. It is coordination, human order imposed on water's insistence. And it is done under the gaze of the community, because everyone knows what is at stake. Then, as the crew redirects the flow, the canal's surface changes. It smooths. The current steadies. Water begins to distribute more evenly, feeding smaller channels that lead to the fields. The moment is subtle, but you can feel it like a collective exhale. A few workers straighten and wipe their foreheads. A child, watching from a distance, steps closer as if to confirm that the danger has passed. This is the peak of the day. Not spectacle, but balance restored. And in Egypt, balance is not merely practical. It is sacred. The concept of order, of rightness, lives in these actions. The gods are honored not only in temples, but in the maintenance of what keeps life possible. But an open loop remains. If the state's power depends on such fragile points, wooden stakes, mud banks, human attention, how does an empire protect itself from the countless small failures that could happen tomorrow? As afternoon cools toward evening, the village returns to its familiar rhythm, but the memory of tension lingers. You walk back along the canal and notice details you ignored earlier. How narrow the banks are, how easily a hoof could break an edge, how much labor is hidden in what looks effortless. The fields now drink steadily. The shaduf swings again in patient arcs, less urgent, more routine. Birds skim low over the water and vanish into reeds. You follow the river road toward a temple precinct as the light softens. The atmosphere changes. The air feels quieter near the walls. Stone replaces mudbrick. Carved surfaces catch shadows in sharp relief. You pass through an entryway and into a courtyard where the scent of incense hangs like a veil. A priest in clean linen moves with slow precision. Offerings are arranged: bread, beer, flowers. Simple goods transformed into sacred gestures. Inside, the temple corridors are cool and dim. The sound of your steps seems absorbed by stone. Reliefs on the walls show scenes of offerings, processions, and the eternal relationship between gods, king, and land. The imagery is not decoration. It is a statement about how the world should function. Even if you never see the king, his presence is implied in every ritual, every record, every measure of grain. Outside again, at dusk, the Nile reflects the sky's fading colors: amber, then violet. Smoke rises from cooking fires along the bank. Families gather. A pot simmers. Someone laughs softly. A loom creaks in a doorway where a woman continues weaving by the last usable light. The day feels peaceful now, but it is not naive. It knows what it has survived. Above the river, the first stars return, sharp and cold. Below, in the dark water, reflections tremble with every current. Which is more enduring, the stone of temples or the repeated human choices that keep the canals working day after day? Night settles over Egypt, and the heat finally loosens its grip. You hear frogs near the reeds, the faint splash of a fish, the distant murmur of voices fading into sleep. In 1250 B.C., a day is not just hours passing, it is a negotiation with sun, water, labor, and belief. The monuments may outlast everyone, but the true engine of this world is quieter. Hands packing mud, scribes recording grain, families sharing bread, and a river that must be respected every single morning. And as the Nile keeps moving in the dark, one question follows you into the night: how many empires have been built on something as simple and as delicate as a canal gate?